Last week, I discovered my superpower. It doesn't feel like much of a superpower yet. In fact, after my assessment, I felt I don't know how I can describe it to you. There was a sense of an aha moment. So that is why I always found this so hard. But on the other hand, there's always something about speaking something out and hearing yourself say it aloud. And when you get told by the doctor how turbulent your life has been, it makes you think. I did have to process this for a few good days. The thing is, I had a whole other plan for this year other than more challenges in my life. I was a hot mess towards the end of the year, feeling overwhelmed and depressed, followed by the year starting out having to isolate for 10 days. Starting counseling with BetterHelp and Mind also came with its challenges. I can still only recommend it to everyone, but talking with a therapist is not a walk in the park and comes with many, I don't want to say challenges. It comes with a lot of work and responsibility that is tasking, and it is not easy sometimes. But the vision is to better myself in several areas of my life, so that does not come without having to jump through some hoops. If you have been with this community a while, you will know that my eldest kid was diagnosed with ADHD at 18 and then with autism at 19. My 4-year-old son was also diagnosed with autism last year. This on its own comes with its challenges, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I love my family, but now that I too have been diagnosed with ADHD at 39 years old, it is a weird feeling that I'm finding very difficult to describe. However, the important thing is that I now know for certain, and it kind of explains why I never was able to fit in and I was so different and difficult. Dysfunctional relationship, lack of focus, or too much focus. I still feel a little bit lost at the moment. I had my assessment on Saturday. Today is Thursday, and I still know very little about ADHD and especially what I am supposed to do next with that knowledge. Of course, I am loading up on information from many different sources. A really awesome YouTuber, Cody Warner, who openly speaks about his ADHD, got back to my message on Instagram and he recommended several books to me. He also created this awesome reel with an analogy of neurotypical people being a bike and people with ADHD being a pogo stick. You would struggle to ride a pogo stick like a bike, as it is not designed for that purpose. It's a really good one, so if I can, I will link it here or in the description below. I also reached out to my good friend Maximus at Maximus & Co, who was able to give me many words of encouragement. So thank you for that as well. I'm not sure if medication is the route I would like to go down, but I definitely need some coping mechanisms and speak to professionals or even others who have gone through this on how I can better manage the struggles and actually turn them into a superpower. It all started with Hannah's diagnosis of ADHD and autism. Carolina, my wife, and I focused very much on learning and attending many classes, educating ourselves on autism to be able to support our son as he was nonverbal. So our focus unfortunately was not so much on ADHD. Hannah was watching plenty of TikToks educating themselves about their ADHD. Towards the end of last year, they blasted out, pointing at me saying,
"That's such an ADHD thing."
Followed by another and another such moment. One of those moments was when we were deep cleaning the kitchen and suddenly I would leave the room to start repairing the DVD player that had been broken for the past few months. As a result, on the 21st of December, I called up my doctor's surgery to say, "Good morning, I would like to speak to a doctor to be assessed for ADHD." That same afternoon, I received a call from a doctor who filled out a referral form for me, and I also had to complete a self-assessment form with questions like, on a scale from never to very often, how often do you have trouble wrapping up the final details of a project once the challenging parts have been done? Or how often do you interrupt others when they are busy? I completed this form immediately and returned it to the surgery. I anticipated to wait for a long time. I was told it would probably take up to 18 months, but I already received an email with my online credentials from Psychiatry UK 3 weeks later on the 10th of January. There were more forms to complete by myself and I needed an informant to fill out a couple of forms too. Once again, given the anticipation that this would now take a long time to be processed, I completed all the forms immediately. I must tell you, I was super hyper-focused at that time on everything except what I was supposed to be focused on. For instance, my TEDx script. After delivering a somewhat mediocre first draft, I had all the ideas in my head to polish it up, but I used any excuse to work on something else, such as completing these self-assessment forms, for example. 3 days later, I received confirmation of my assessment appointment for a couple of weeks down the line for the 31st of January, but that was cancelled and received another appointment for the 5th of February. So all in all, it took no time at all to get the assessment and diagnosis, and I'm very glad I went through with it. Now I need to go back to my doctors again to ask for a referral for the counseling part, which I'm looking forward to. The medication part that I'm still very unsure about, I was told won't start until June. Apparently it is not as straightforward as just prescribing medication, but I will see how that goes and make a decision when the time comes. I'm quite intrigued to see what difference it would make though. I'm very glad that I did go and got diagnosed, even though I'm now an adult, or supposed to be at least. I think a big element of it is acknowledging that it is okay to be different. For so many years, a lot of things that I did or how I did them was due to social expectation. But exactly that I always found so extremely difficult to cope with. Looking back over some of my older videos, it is very interesting to see how my perspective on events has changed. For that reason, I believe it is important for me to get the help that I need to build strategies and skills to finally get back onto that horse again and start crushing those goals and dreams that I have for myself, my family and my community. I want to make an impact in this world through the technologies I want to develop, the words I speak and the examples I set. I do believe that anyone with ADHD and autism or any other disability for that matter is blessed with a superpower. And I want my children and myself to feel unique rather than different and have a sense that we have a lot to give to this world, more than we give ourselves credit for. So for now, and probably the majority of this year, my focus will be to continue working on myself and develop that superpower and overcome all and any challenges that I have in my way at the moment, while expecting many great things to happen. Thanks for watching, guys. This wasn't an easy one for me to produce, but being transparent and vulnerable is important to me if it means that you get something out of it. I look forward to seeing you in the next one, but in the meantime, make sure you stay positive and motivated.